Right.
Hello everyone, my name is Jackie Herring. I am the Executive Director for the Office of Homelessness, and I'm bringing to you today the Homelessness Commissioning Process presentation to inform everyone about the process that we will commence over the coming months and into next year on how we will commission and design the services for the homelessness system. Before I do start, however, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. For many of you, that will be locations outside of the southwest of Western Australia, but for me, that's I'm here on Noongar Budja, and would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and continue the ongoing connection to land and country and waters that Aboriginal people have. So thank you for sharing your time with me today. This has been a fairly long journey, probably longer for you than me, in terms of progressing the commissioning process for homelessness services. And I'd like to acknowledge, I guess, some of the things that have been shared with me, particularly over the last couple of months around the commissioning process and the work that's been done to date. John Buffler from CEWA did remind me the other day that you have been on this journey since well before 2019. And there was a time when I was attending a meeting with Penny Kennedy and John where we were kicking off the homelessness commissioning process back then, and here we are again at the beginning, or what it seems like the beginning, which, yeah, I appreciate has been a long journey for everybody, but we are committed to the journey that we are now all on in terms of progressing the homelessness commissioning process. A lot of things have happened since then. Obviously, we've had COVID, which has disrupted many people's lives. And we've also, very excitingly, we now do have a Minister for Homelessness. And we also now do have the Office of Homelessness, which was created at the beginning of this year. Other things that have occurred this year that will support us through this process include the Homelessness Inquiry, and also the Productivity Commission report into the NAHA, all of which will underpin and inform where we progress to in relation to the homelessness commissioning process over the next 12 to 18 months. My commitment throughout this process is to be transparent, to be open, and to engage in those robust conversations, which no doubt we will have as we progress through this process. And I'm certainly looking forward to working with you all as we progress towards establishing a place-based, person-centred homelessness system that really puts at the centre of what we all do, the individuals that are impacted by homelessness. So yeah, I guess that's an introduction in terms of the next 12 to 18 months as we commence this journey. I'm just getting my slides to work here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so many of you will know this situation a lot more than I do. We currently have 127 homelessness service contracts and grants across 53 organisations that this financial year amount to almost $80 million across service groups that include the Youth Accommodation Support Services, Homelessness Accommodation Support Services, Housing Support Workers, Outreach and Housing First Homelessness Initiative, which was a recent addition to our homelessness system back in 2020. Most of the homelessness service contracts were due to expire on the 30th of June and have been extended for a further 2 years to the 30th of June 2024. The department has initiated a commissioning approach to homelessness services to begin transitioning our service system over the next 12 to 18 months towards new contemporary service agreements that very much take into account funding sustainability, looking at the complexity of homelessness across all of its entities, and making sure that the system aligns with All Paths Lead to Home, Western Australia's 10-year strategy on homelessness, including a very strong focus on no wrong door and housing first principles. Not too far. Let's go back on. So the homelessness commissioning plan that we've developed is underpinned by the Department of Community's commissioning plan, which is also underpinned by the State Commissioning Strategy for Community Services. The State Commissioning Strategy for Community Services was released by the Department of Finance in August of this year, and certainly that will form the basis of the process that we carry out over the next 12 to 18 months. Importantly, we will also be taking into consideration the outcomes framework that was developed along with WACOS and the Department of Finance around the outcomes that we're seeking to achieve through this process as well. You would be aware that the Department of Communities Commissioning Plan actually identified 4 key service areas, homelessness being one of them. Out-of-home care, family and domestic violence and child sexual abuse therapeutic services was the other 3. And in effect, we're one of 4 initiatives that will progress over the next 12 to 18 months. So the objectives that we're hoping to achieve from our homelessness commissioning process is to transition the current homelessness service system to an integrated place-based person-centred approach that aligns with WA's 10-year strategy on homelessness. Importantly, and as often reiterated by the Minister, housing first principles will be a guiding priority for everything that we do throughout this commissioning process, and we'll also be very focused on ensuring that we deliver an integrated and coordinated service delivery system and a no wrong door approach. It's really important that we also focus on place-based services and person-centred responses to better meet the needs specific to each region. That's because what works in Kununurra obviously won't work in Albany, and what works in Bunbury won't necessarily work in Geraldton, and certainly what works in the metropolitan area is very different from every other regional location. So ensuring that we are place-based and take into consideration the local context and the local needs of local communities is going to be crucially important to the work that we do. And a bit later on in the presentation, you'll actually see that we're taking a very much a staged approach to how we roll out the commissioning process over the next 12 to 18 months. We're also committed to embedding Aboriginal cultural security and culturally appropriate responses throughout the process and ensuring that services in the future also embed Aboriginal cultural security and culturally appropriate responses. We are aware that Aboriginal people are unfortunately overrepresented in the homelessness system, and our very strong aim and commitment is to ensure that services support Aboriginal people in a culturally appropriate way, and that we also increase the engagement of Aboriginal controlled community organisations in the delivery of services for Aboriginal people. We're also very clear on including the voice of lived experience in the work that we do. To be person-centred, we need to understand exactly what it is that people who are experiencing homelessness are experiencing, and therefore we will be engaging with people who have lived experience, both currently and historically, to ensure that the services that we deliver are actually delivered in a way that meets the needs of those individuals. We're also keen to ensure that the system has built-in agility and funding agility as well, to ensure that services are able to adapt and pivot to the differing and changing needs and demands of the client base, and also the circumstances in which the system is operating. Reducing administrative burdens is also a key. We'll have a look at the reporting requirements and look at how we can increase the value of reporting while also reducing the demand so that we're not writing 30, 40, 50 page reports which then just sit on a shelf, but rather inform what we do and how we do it and enable us to evolve and develop our services over time to get better outcomes for individuals. So many of you will have seen the commissioning circle before, and essentially our commissioning approach very much seeks to improve the design and delivery of the homelessness service system, and we're taking very much a systems service design process to this commissioning process that we'll actually deliver. We want to make sure that we meet the needs of the people that use them at the right time and in the right place, and so we're very much committed to putting service users and the community at the centre of everything we do. We are committed to a co-design and cultural safety process whereby we will design the services in collaboration with service providers as well as people with lived experience and those people impacted by homelessness, with a very strong cultural safety lens over the process that we undertake. We'll also seek to ensure that services are funded sustainably, so we'll seek to understand exactly what it costs to deliver services and make sure that we're able to deliver those services in a sustainable way, and also reflect on the evidence base of what works and robust quality standards. So we'll be taking from other spaces in the homelessness sector around what works and what doesn't, and really embedding our service design and system design process in an evidence-based way, drawing from the experience of other states and also international evidence as we design and deliver the system that we want to create. Importantly, collaboration between service users, providers and government is how we will deliver the value of this process, making sure that everybody has a voice and we deliver the changes required to ultimately help those individuals that we are seeking to support who are impacted by homelessness. So the commissioning approach that we will take over the next 12 to 18 months, we've broken into 3 phases, recognising that it is a fairly big piece of work that we're embarking upon. So the first phase, which is the phase that we've just launched and we've just started, is the system mapping and sector engagement. And we're seeking to understand the current system, what's working, what's not working, and we'll do that through regular collaboration sessions that we'll have with organisations, with the sector, with local government, with other state government agencies and a variety of other entities to ensure that we fully understand the system that we're operating within. We'll also map the communities funded services and identify other government funded services that actually exist within the homelessness system and look at what areas need to improve and how we actually transition that service system to one which is very much about housing first and no wrong door approaches. We will then move into a system and service design phase, having understood the existing service system and understanding the future system that we're seeking to create. We will then look to work with you to look at what the agreed outcomes need to be. There'll be ongoing sector engagement along with outcomes measurement framework development. And also recognising the diversity of services that might be required, as well as the geographical coverage and the services that are required for each region and each location. Finally, we will move into the procurement and contracting phase, and at this point we haven't developed the procurement plan because that will very much be informed by the system mapping and system and service design process, and so probably by the time we get to mid next year we'll have a fairly good idea as to what that procurement and contracting plan needs to look like, and it will be developed as part of that collaborative process that we engage with you over the next 12 months. So this slide illustrates the phased rollout region by region. As I mentioned previously, WA is a very big state, and obviously we're not in a position to be able to do everything all at once. So the system mapping and sector engagement, we're starting principally in those areas which are currently our HIFI regions, and that includes the Southwest, the Perth Metro area, the Midwest and our Peel region. And essentially the system mapping and sector engagement process will continue through until probably about February, March of next year. And then we'll progress to doing a similar process with the Great Southern, the Goldfields, Esperance region and the Wheatbelt, followed by the Pilbara, the Kimberley and the Gascoyne. Although we do have a small team, the plan will be to get out to each of those regions and really understand how things work on the ground, what the services are that already exist, how those services can evolve, what impact those services are having on the ground, and then look at how the system design piece will roll out in each of those regions as well, recognising that each region is different. You'll also note that the time taken in each of those phases does reduce slightly in the system mapping and sector engagement process, because that's what we're hoping to do, is that what we learn in those sessions as we go will obviously inform how we structure those sessions as we move through each of the regions. But the procurement and contracting phase is largely about the same in the end. This just provides a little bit more detail of each of the stages that we're operating on in terms of the activities and deliverables that we will commit to over that period. And essentially the deliverables from stage 1 will be to produce what we are referring to as region packs that will actually contain a geographical map of the community's funded and non-funded services. It will include the current service delivery plotted to a service continuum. So we're very much looking at the delivery of services along a service continuum so that we can understand the system and its component parts, but also then how that system works together. We'll look at demand and needs and cost benefit analysis, and we'll also look at gap analysis and opportunities for system improvement. So those documents essentially will be designed through the collaborative process and the sector engagement process that we're actually going to embark upon, but then that will then inform the next phase, which will look at system and service design. So in the system and service design phase, essentially what we'll be looking to deliver is a system and service design that shows what an integrated place-based person-centred homelessness system model actually looks like, that has within it embedded housing first, no wrong door principles as a guiding priority. So I guess that's the aim or the vision that we're actually seeking to create. And it will include ongoing sector engagement. So along the entire journey, we'll be seeking sector involvement and sector input into the design of that system. We'll also develop an evaluation and monitoring framework, which will detail the indicators and measures aligned to the Community Services Outcomes Measurement Framework, so that will be built into the actual service design process and the services that we roll out into the future. We will also consider the Southwest trial and the learnings that we gather from that process into the data requirements and the service level outcomes, and that will also be built into the service design system as well. And we'll also consult with specialist services and government agency integration, looking at Mental Health Commission, the Justice Department and other areas to ensure that they're all part of the bigger system that we're actually operating within. As I've already said, we actually don't have yet a preconceived idea as to what the procurement and contracting phase will look like, and essentially the two previous phases will actually determine what that procurement plan actually looks like, but through this process we will develop a procurement plan which will inform the right type of procurement process that we implement for homelessness commissioning, recognising that it's likely to be quite different depending upon the types of services, and there will be options for preferred service provider, there'll be options for open tender, there'll be options for a range of procurement strategies that we implement based upon what we learn over the next 6 months. So for the metropolitan regions, and essentially what we will be doing is replicating this probably in abridged versions for our regional locations, but essentially what we'll be looking to do is to establish regular design lab co-working sessions themed around different aspects of the homelessness service continuum along with specific cohorts. And that we expect that there'll be multiple sessions for each service type. So you'll see along the service continuum that we've broken it down into outreach, engagement hubs, support services, which include case management and those services like the public tenancy support services. And then we also have a look at accommodation, whether that be crisis accommodation, transitional accommodation, supported accommodation, and the range of accommodation that is available for homelessness services or people experiencing homelessness, and then how that actually intersects with housing and the other housing options that might be available for people experiencing homelessness. We will also pay particular attention to the range of vulnerable cohorts that are impacted, and that would include Aboriginal people, people from LGBTQI plus backgrounds, older women, aged people more generally, people with disabilities, people from called backgrounds. So we recognise that there are a range of specific and vulnerable cohorts that we will need to focus on. And as we go through the system mapping process, we'll identify where those particular cohorts sit in the system and ensure that we have specific sessions that examine their unique needs. Importantly, we'll also have a very strong focus on youth, because we recognise that youth homelessness is quite different to adult homelessness, and the needs of youth experiencing homelessness are quite different, particularly in the support space and the accommodation space. And so there will be a very specific focus on youth and some dedicated sessions that we spend on the youth part of the commissioning process. We will be looking, as I've already said, looking at working closely with people with lived experience, Aboriginal community controlled organisations, frontline workers in particular, because they're the ones that are on the ground every day working with individuals, and working with communities and funded and non-funded services across a range of government agencies. Local government authorities also have an important part to play in this in homelessness, along with specialist services like MCOT, street to home, and homeless healthcare. Other examples of organisations that we will be seeking to work with, in addition to other government agencies. Just to highlight, I guess, some of the priority stakeholders that we will work very closely with. As already mentioned, Aboriginal community controlled organisations are a key cohort or a key organisational sector. And we will be looking to embed shared decision making within a flexible and culturally safe collaboration process, and amplifying the voice and aspirations of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to ensure community controlled organisations deliver the best service and outcomes for closing the gap. So we're very well aligned through this project on the closing the gap targets and ensuring that we reduce the incidence of Aboriginal homelessness through this process, and also ensuring that we prioritise a culturally informed approach to addressing homelessness and ensuring services are delivered with a view to supporting self-determination, and also aligned with the 10-year strategy outcome of our strategy, which is about improving Aboriginal wellbeing. I've already mentioned that we will work very closely with people with lived experience and ensure that we have sessions and opportunities for them to contribute to the design and the sector engagement process as well. I've already really spoken about youth commissioning, or youth homelessness commissioning rather, and highlighted that yes, we will be prioritising a response to youth homelessness and looking at how youth homelessness is different to the adult space. I guess our ultimate aim is to ensure that if you're a person or youth experiencing homelessness, that you don't end up in the adult homelessness system. So very much looking at how we can prevent the transition of youth homelessness into adult homelessness, which is why we need to have a different approach for young people. We've also, with the assistance of Shelter WA, so thank you, Michelle, developed a series of guiding principles about how we will work together. And I guess this demonstrates our commitment to you across the sector and more broadly about how we will work with you. We are committed to a collaborative commissioning approach and developing services in partnership with service users and service providers, and looking at new ways of working in terms of how we work better together. Always keeping service users and community needs at the centre. Ultimately, we're all here because we want to make a difference. And so it's really crucially important that we keep individuals at the centre of what we do. And in effect, you know, setting aside our egos and logos at the door when we come together in this space. It really is about creating and designing a service system that supports individuals. Consulting and working closely with Aboriginal controlled community organisations and ensuring our decision making is aligned to closing the gap, valuing diversity of knowledge and experience and the benefits of inclusive practice. So again, this is making sure that, you know, there isn't a one size fits all solution to homelessness. It is about making sure that we consider all perspectives and embed and look at how we ensure that the homelessness system does meet the needs of everybody wherever possible. We understand the diversity of opinions is the strength of our community, and we will listen respectfully and maintain an open mind. So again, a commitment to real collaboration and working together to progress towards our aim of resolving and ending homelessness for those who are most impacted in our community. I won't read the rest of those, but you get the idea. Essentially, they are and will be our guiding principles about how we will work together. And I guess in closing, in terms of how to engage with the homelessness commissioning process, we will be having, as I mentioned previously, regular co-working sessions across the state to enable statewide homelessness system development and a place-based and cohort-specific consultation. So we encourage people to get involved when and where they can. Also importantly, if you aren't able to get to some of the sessions, there will be other ways that you can engage, and that includes regular webinars and online whiteboarding tool. We have engaged or adopted the Miro platform, and we'll be using that to enable people to participate in the process where they're not able to come and join us in person, to ensure that we actually are able to access and provide opportunities as widely as possible. And it also enables that two-way feedback process to continue throughout the process, and for people to provide feedback around specific topics or suggest future topics that they want us to cover. And of course, the Office of Homelessness, so my team is available to take feedback and to respond to questions. We will be travelling across the state over the next 9 months. We are a small team, but we will do our best to get to most places, and certainly are very keen to receive your feedback via email and or phone, and the next slide provides all of those details for you. I guess in closing, you know, this is a really exciting opportunity that we have ahead of us. The Minister for Homelessness is committed and really enthusiastic about addressing homelessness. We have the new Office of Homelessness, and my team are committed to the task ahead. And I guess I just really am looking forward to working with you across the sector to really make a difference and improve the lives of those people who are the most vulnerable in our community, recognising that homelessness is a very complex issue, and our role is to try and assist people to navigate that system and to hopefully end their own homelessness in a supportive way. So that, I guess, concludes the presentation. My team's details are available on this slide, so please do feel free to reach out, send us an email or give us a phone call. And we'll also be publishing in the not too distant future a schedule of all of the sessions that we will be delivering, so you'll know at what point you can get involved and when the sessions are, and all of that information will be available on our website. So thank you again for your time, and I look forward to working with you in the future.